Hey everyone,
So what I'm going to be doing today is explaining you some of the most basic and the most important things for you in Adobe Lightroom in order for you to be able to edit your photos. I'm going to show you maybe a few tips and tricks. We'll see as we go what happens, but let's just jump right into it now. When you get into Lightroom, you will see your library window to open up. It might introduce you with like tutorial right at the beginning, so you can learn that way too, but I'm regardless going to explain in case you decide not to. So here I've got all of my folders that I have imported, and these question marks mean that I have moved these folders around, so they're not in the same place anymore. So I have this one open up. I have some photos edited, so we're going to choose the one that we haven't edited to show you how to edit. But let's talk about these panels that we have here. We have library, which shows the photos that have been imported from the folder that you have selected. We got develop. Here we edit our images. Map, if we had GPS turned on in our camera, which would tell us like where we are and where we took the photo, that would stay with the image that we have taken, and then we would be able to see images on the map right here. Book, we make photo books in this area right here. Then we have slideshow. We make a slideshow of our images that we have taken. Print, we do it for printing. And for web gallery, if you have a web page, you can use this to create your own web gallery and upload it that way. And here is cloud, so you can just sync it up with Creative Cloud by Adobe. Now we're going to go into the editing. So now that we have the library here, so now we're going to I'm going to actually show you how to import a photo. If you got any photos you have taken, click import. Then it's going to show either the recent upload, or just you go ahead and find where you have the file saved, the files saved and uploaded, or just click on one of your hard drives or the other one that you have, don't matter, just find a location, click on the folder, and your image is going to show up. Images and videos. You cannot edit videos in Lightroom, but you can upload them into the catalog. Now that we mentioned catalog is basically all of your images in that one place. Now you can change catalogs, you can create new ones, and the images and edits of the old one are going to stay if you save it, of course, but they're going to stay, and you can go back to it whenever you want, and it's going to show up all of the images that you used in that catalog. Now let's go back to importing. So for example, here I got Far Cry images. I posted one on my Instagram story. I imported them in 2 hours ago. So since I have them imported, I will go back, I'll find the folder. Here it is, screenshots. Now these are the images that I have taken. Let's go to develop to see the edits. So this, I'm not even sure if I have edited it, but we can see the before and after view, which we have right here. Click that. This was the image before, and this is my edit from after. Here below, we have more images. You can see still before and after. As long as you have this turned on, it's going to show before and after of every image. If you haven't edited an image like this one, they're both going to show up the same. But I'm not going to be showing you how to edit on these photos. I'm going to show you on some photos that I haven't edited, which are in raw format. Now, if you haven't watched my video on difference between raw and JPEG and some more camera settings and all those things, you can check it out in the link below, or I'm going to show it at the end of the video, so you can click on it and go and watch that. Now I'm going to go back to this folder. So we clicked library, we went back, found the folder that we need, that I want to. Click back on develop, and now we're going to see all the images that I have edited versus them being unedited, and the ones that I haven't edited. So this one, for example, is edited, and this one isn't, and this one isn't. I'm just gonna find a photo that I really like and want to edit. So I think I could choose this one. This one is not edited. So you're gonna go back to loop view. We click D, it shows up the whole image. We click here to show up before and after. Alright. So now that we are in this view, I can show you some difference here. There's some presets. If you got them downloaded, you can select a few and they're instantly gonna change the way your image looks. I rarely use them sometimes, but not that much. I use them just to correct my image, or if I'm not inspired and like, if I don't know what way I want my image to look, I click on one of the presets when I used to use them, and I would go along with the view. I would just change a few settings, maybe the color temperature, make it a bit cooler, colder, to make the preset the way I want it to be. Here we have a history, and here we have snapshots. Now, snapshots are supposed to bring you back in time to show you how your image looked like before you applied some sort of edit. Now, I'm gonna start editing this image without the presets or any of these things. Now let's go here to this area right here. If you watched the video, you maybe haven't, but here you can see all of the other settings. Here you can see histogram. So basically histogram shows you, as you can see below, exposure, highlights, shadows, blacks. So it's divided into 5, and whites. It's divided into 5 sections, and as you move them, image might change as well. See, you're moving the blacks, and they're moving here too. Now we can double click right here, and it all goes as it used to be. But I suggest you to just use these edits right here. You can take a look up at the history and just see like if everything's right. If some areas are too dark, too bright, you check that by clicking right here. It's gonna show the clipping. See, for example, here I turned off the shadow clipping, meaning that it's too dark. These areas are too dark. So we raise the shadows up or raise the exposure up. So these areas right here, I don't think they actually even matter that much, because they aren't a big part of the image. They're just right here below. So I won't do anything to that. But it's just to show you if your image is too underexposed or too overexposed. Now what I'm gonna do is explain to you what some of these things are. Up here, you actually also have fit view, so it shows the whole image. You got the fill view, which fills up the space that we have available. There's 1-on-1, which zooms it in. I got 3-1, which zooms it even more. Now we click on the screen, it goes to fill, now it's to fit. Now we have all of these right here. White balance we can change within our camera. Some cameras have the ability to change the white balance by changing kelvins, just the raw temperature. Here though, if we mess that up, we can try and change that a little bit with these two sliders, temperature and tint. So now with tint we can add a greener tint or more purplish pinkish tint, depending from image to image. And here we can change the one from cold to warm. And what I like to do is, if I'm editing like autumn type of photos, I'm just gonna boost these two together so they give me this kind of like reddish, warmish, autumnish kind of tone. Now here I have exposure. We can underexpose the image. Now we can see there's clipping for shadows. And if we boost it up, then we have clipping for highlights. And you can see that the histogram has changed too. Everything went to the whites. Now if we do this, everything went to the blacks. I'm just gonna double click, set it to normal. I'm actually gonna leave that like as it is. Bring the highlights down a bit. Bring the shadows. I won't touch the shadows. maybe clarity a little bit, just to boost some of these highlights up, to make it just a bit brighter. Texture, we can use that a little bit too, not too much though, because then images don't look really natural. So we're just gonna keep it at an okay rate. I'm gonna use this. Okay, now we've come down to texture, clarity, and the haze, right? So basically with texture, we increase with software the sharpness of our image. With clarity, we make some of the highlights brighter and the blacks darker, basically. Then we have vibrance, which is basically the vibrance of the colors, meaning how, not saturated, just how yellow the yellows are. Let's put it that way. So, see, the yellow is like really yellow, right? At zero, it's just gonna be like, okay, you can see that it's yellow, but not that yellow, you know? Saturation is the strength of the yellow, you know? It's kind of the same thing, but not really. It's tough to explain. As you can see right here, when we reduce the saturation, it's really black and white. When we reduce the vibrance, you can still see a little bit of color left. Okay, I rarely touch, I play around with those when my image is too colorful, if there's too much contrast. Contrast though is relation between how dark the blacks are and how bright the whites are. Right now that I have sorted this part out, everything looks good for me. I can go down a bit more. We got the tone curve. Tone curve, most photographers go for the S curve. It's supposed to give out the best look to the image. Some photographers do this first, some do it last. I prefer to just do it the way I'm doing it now. I start from the top and I go down to the bottom. Now, it might not be the best S curve ever, but that just depends from the image to image and your own personal wantings, your wish, how you want to edit the image. Well, here we got the color and HSL panels. HSL is hue, saturation, luminance, and color. We have it all set out by color. So, luminance for this color. See, it's changing up here. Then we make it more saturated. Here we got the hue, whether we want it more blue or if we want it more red. This is magenta color. Then we got orange. Change the oranges now. This looks very bad, doesn't it? So we can change that right here. We can change the luminance up, maybe a bit saturated, a bit more reddish. I kind of like the way that it looks at the moment. There's that. I like it so far. Maybe a bit more saturated. Yeah. Alright, so now here we have split toning. So we can give a desired color to the highlights of the image. Then we can do the same to the shadows. Highlights, this is a bit too saturated, but I kind of like the way it looks. But for now, I'm just not gonna play around with that. Then we have shadows as well. We can do the same to the shadows. Add a more blue tone, or whatever we want actually. It all goes down to what you want, what you prefer to be doing. Detail, sharpening, I usually try to keep it down a bit, because then it introduces grain to the image that wasn't there when you took it. Noise reduction reduces that noise that you got whilst taking the image, and you probably got it because your ISO was too high. Getting noise reduction down to 0 because my ISO was at 100 is the best it can be on my camera. Now here you have lens corrections that you can apply to your lenses. Remove chromatic aberration. That's the purplish type of thing that is created at the edges of the thing that you took a photo of, edges of the subject. Why? Because the way the light breaks inside of the lens and the way it falls onto the sensor, and it's just a bit complicated. Then we have enable profile corrections. Now we can do that. and then it's gonna change the settings. It's gonna change the image around a little bit, apply distortion. See, without this width, now you'd be like, oh, like you thought this looked okay, and it does. I actually prefer the way it looks straight out of the lens, straight out of the camera without applying this setting. But at the same time, I don't mind using this, like it helps me sometimes, but I do use this a lot. Now this here, you can just make the image a bit more straight, apply some effects like vignette. These are just more like artistic preference. You don't have to use them, but you can if you want to. I rarely do. So basically, I never play around with this either, so I'm just not even gonna touch it. That's like even more advanced. I would be taking it to a level that you don't actually need to know. Now, there's also these here. All of these like buttons. And we have brush tool. We press K to select it. Now, what we can do is you can mark part of the image. Now we got this button right here that opened because we use this brush, and it's only for that brush, for these moves that we're making right now. It's still under the same brush. So now we boost it up. See, it's only boosting up highlights for that part of the image. And we can select this any way we want, right? So now we have that. It's a bit more impactful, just because we raise the exposure up a little bit. And we can raise the clarity too to like make it even more impactful. We can hold Alt and then erase the bits that we don't actually like, that we have maybe accidentally added. There's that. I actually like that. We can see the before and after. Now we have the radial filter, which I will not be using for this image. I'll just show you what it does, but I really don't need it in this image. So basically, it applies the effects that we select here inside of the circle or outside of it, regarding whether we have it inverted or not. So without it being inverted, it applies it to everything around except the middle. This way we can also create the vignette like we did it earlier. Okay, so now we have darkened it down a little bit, but now I can increase the size of this circle. And we basically have the same thing. We got the vignette. It's a bit different than the one from earlier, but it is still a vignette. Create the feather a bit lesser. There you go. It's still a vignette. Now we click invert, and we're gonna apply everything we had on the outside to the inside of the circle. I rarely use this. I use it if I want to bring out the exposure of the eye, if the eyes are a bit too dark and whatnot. So only then is when I use this. I've got the gradient, which I use a lot actually to bring out the subject of the image. For example, if it's a person or a car and there's some ground in the image, or I want to bring or if it's like a portrait and I want to bring attention to the portrait, what I'm going to do is just do this, or landscapes too. I'm going to do this, just darken the ground a little bit, right? Just darken like the beginning over here. Turn to the side a bit so it aligns with the shadows right here. Now viewer's attention is going up here at all of that and not at these rocks here, right? So I'm gonna apply that and go to history and check. Okay, add just when I added it, and this is when I changed its settings. Now, does your mind automatically look up here, or does it actually stay looking here? Maybe it stays looking here simply because you've just seen me do it. But we can change this even more and even better. So drag it up more, right? Bring it more down, make it darker. So then there's going to be more of a transition between the darkest and then the brightest of this gradient mask. See? Now when you hold it right here, it goes all the way up to here. That's how far it's been applied. We can darken more or reduce. We can reduce how far it has gone by doing this, by making it extra short. And we can use shadows too to make it extra dark. It's going to affect the shadows of the image. We can bring highlights up, which is going to bring up the highlights of that part of the image. And yeah, now we can here also add the desired color that we want to, but I think there's no need for that, so I'm not going to touch that. I like it the way it is. You can play around with that yourself. Here we have the red eye correction. That's if we've taken photos with the flash and there was a red eye, we do that with this. We've got the spot removal, so we will be able to remove this. We'll be able to remove this plane over here just by drawing over it. We let go. Now it's gone. But I like the thing that the plane is creating to the image, just how much it's adding to it. So I'm just gonna keep it there. And here we have the size, feather, and opacity of the same thing. And then we got the crop. Now here we can change how much the image has been cropped. For Instagram, it's 4:5. Now I could make it like smaller and whatnot, but like this would be the horizontal view for Instagram, so that it takes up the most space it can on your screen, and not be looking as wide as the original, which then makes it look smaller and less impactful on the person when the person sees it. So yeah, we can also rotate it, like get the angle right, make it straight. If we think that it's not straight, for example, let's just put it like this. Enter. Now it's been straightened, and yeah, that'll be it. This was just basically the basics. This is basically like all you need to know to just start editing. You don't need to know anything more. For now, that's that. Link another video if you want to learn more about photo editing in the Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom. But that will be it for now. Hope you have enjoyed this process. I hope you enjoyed actually going through some photos that you have done this yourself. The biggest thing that you can do for yourself to improve your editing or to learn how to edit is watching tutorials and then trying out things yourself, what each of these does for your image. Once you do that, it's going to be much better, and with time you're going to get more comfortable and more confident in editing or with editing. That will be it for this video. I hope you have liked it, and if you have, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe. You see the animation right here, somewhere right here, should be somewhere over there, I don't know, but I hope you liked it. And if you have, then again, please leave a like, comment if you want to see more videos like this, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.